Tropical Storm Melissa will become a catastrophic hurricane in the coming days, bringing life-threatening conditions across the Caribbean. Here to give you the latest information that we have from overnight into this morning. There has been some changes. We'll speak on those changes as we go. I am very concerned about what Melissa can do over the next several days or so. We're expecting multiple landfalls with this storm system. Timestamps will be up throughout the entire video. Take advantage of those. Listen to whatever you want to listen to with this video, but I do encourage you guys to listen to as much of it as you can. You're going to get a lot of good information, and I'll even have a segment of the video where I kind of geek out with you guys a little bit, explain why this system is going to be moving so slow, why it could become such a powerful hurricane. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below, and we are certainly praying for you folks and our family down here in the Caribbean. Let's get going this morning. So this is Tropical Storm Melissa. It's still getting blasted by westerly shear, and I think this will continue for the life of this storm system, but there's going to be some changes that's going to allow this system to really get its act together and ultimately become a hurricane. But most of its convection is pushed off to the south and the east as we have a lot of divergence aloft, a lot of air being pushed out away from the storm system. But on the western side of the system, there's a lot of dry air that continues to be just pushed into the entire western side of the system because of the westerly shear hitting the western side of the system, kind of ripping apart any kind of convection that tries to get going. So you probably would think the center of the storm is probably right into here, right? Well, that's not the case. The center of the storm is actually probably right into here somewhere. And it's hard to tell because this is not a well-structured tropical system. It's still a very disorganized tropical storm. It has been the case over the last few days, and I think it will continue to be the case for another 12, 24, maybe 36 hours or so. But you're getting a lot of hot towers blowing up, and when I say hot towers, I'm meaning a burst of convection. Convection meaning strong thunderstorm activity indicated by these colors you're seeing blowing up on your screen, which are colder cloud tops. The higher up you get in the atmosphere, the colder it gets. So the taller these storms are, the higher up it gets, the colder it gets, and this is indicated by the colors here. So it just continues to be a sloppy looking tropical storm. It looks like it's barely moving. Let's continue to move forward. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center, your classic look. This cone is very odd looking, and that is because the system's going to be moving so slow. It's moving north at 2 miles per hour. It's a 45 mile per hour tropical system. This is as of the 2 a.m. update. We're right at the fringe of the 5 a.m. update. Let's see if we do have any new information. And we don't. I'm making this video quite early, guys, because I'm leaving for a trip this morning. I'll be back tomorrow, so I had to jump on here and make this video a couple hours earlier than I normally do here in the mornings. But the S stands for tropical storm, H for hurricane, M for major hurricane. Anytime I say major hurricane, I mean a category 3 or higher. Another way to look at this, and I love using this tool when we're breaking down the tropics in a system, is Zoom Earth. It's like combining Google Maps with the tropics. Right now, this thing is a 1001 millibar low. And if you look at this chart, if we go all the way back to like the 22nd, it's stayed about the same as far as millibar. So the strength has not really moved much. In fact, one would say it's weakened a little bit. So the center of the storm's here. You see all the white kind of pushed off away from the center? So I just told you, it's a very poorly organized storm, or a disorganized storm. So by the time we get into this evening, this could begin to strengthen. Forecast to become a 60 mile per hour tropical storm. Forecast to become a hurricane by tomorrow evening, Saturday, about 8 p.m. Category 1, 90 mile per hour storm. There could be a decent pace of strengthening between tomorrow night and Sunday morning. It says it's going to go from a 90 mile per hour Cat 1 to a major Category 3, 115 mile per hour storm. Okay, and then to a Category 4 by Sunday 8 p.m. And then an even higher end Category 4, 145 mile per hour hurricane around sometime Monday p.m. or so. And then it begins to finally move north, hopefully, maybe. And I say hopefully because, it would be nice if somehow this could just turn right into here and avoid a direct landfall and somehow just continue to go north right into here and go this way. But it just does not look like. In fact, we're getting trends in the opposite direction of what we're hoping for. And I'll explain that as we go. But the concerning thing is from 8 p.m. Tomorrow to 8 p.m. Tuesday, it's only going to move from here to here and likely rapidly intensify. Now remember, this cone is not the impact cone. This is where the center of the storm could go. Okay, so the actual center of the storm could, I really think this is going to continue to go north for a period in the short term, but it could go down here and then do something like that. Heck, it could even go and get very close to the Cayman Islands. A little bit of an outlier scenario, but just remember that is where the center of the storm could go. That's not the impact cone. And it makes sense because the actual center of this little line with the dots into it, with the dots in it, actually goes right in the middle of the cone, right? So I do want to note, we continue to have tropical storm warnings up for all of Jamaica. Hurricane watches up also. Same thing for areas of Haiti right into here. So just wanted to explain that. Forecast peak intensity as of right now, the 2 a.m. update is still 145 mile per hour storm. Now there's been some changes, guys. This is the latest Euro, dropped a couple hours ago. I want you to watch how far southwest the Euro dips now. So we're going to start off the Euro with tomorrow morning. Okay, saying it's going to be around a 996 millibar low. So this is still making a tropical storm. So it actually has this beginning to turn just due west over the next 24 hours or so. So we continue to move forward. You're going to see this millibar slowly drop. The more this number drops right beside this L on top of it, the stronger the storm system. So we start to get into Sunday. This becomes a hurricane. Okay, but this is definitely following down here, the southern edge of this cone, way down here. Okay, we continue. We get into Monday morning. It is way down here on the latest Euro, tucked in into basically right smack in the middle of the Caribbean. And I would argue if this is the way it unfolds, this would be a much stronger system than a 975 millibar low by Monday morning. But it continues to spin around down here. I mean, literally just bathe down here in the Caribbean. 958 millibar low, Cat 2, Cat 3 hurricane. Finally, it begins to move north. And we get into Wednesday morning of next week. It's a 929 millibar hurricane off this run of the Euro. That's a Cat 4 at least, heading right towards Jamaica. And now the latest Euro wants a landfall, an actual landfall into Jamaica. I mean, like Wednesday evening. And then it rides up between Jamaica, eastern Cuba, hits eastern Cuba as a major hurricane sometime Thursday morning. And then it comes up and significantly impacts, makes probably a third landfall into the Turks Caicos or the southern Bahamas as we are getting into next Thursday evening, like 6 days from now. And then this thing heads off and we have to watch Bermuda. And we'll discuss Bermuda, the East Coast, and Atlantic Canada towards the end of the video. Now, I have not showed you the Euro AI model in quite some time with tracking this storm system, but it's worth noting that it is just like the Euro. It really wants to turn this thing further to the west over the next 24 hours or so. And this is getting into Sunday morning, has this as around a strong tropical storm, Category 1 hurricane, well south of Jamaica here. Okay, so we continue here, and the Euro AI model normally it normally is a little off when it comes to the strength of the low pressure. It's very conservative. So I would argue this could be a little bit stronger as we're getting into Sunday, but we'll see. But we continue to move this, and let's go on and speed up. We're all the way out to Tuesday morning. It's a 967. When I'm seeing a 967 millibar low pressure off the Euro AI model, I mean, I almost want to drop this a little bit more compared to what I'm seeing here. I mean, this is a very strong low pressure that is showing up on this model. You just typically don't see this strong of low pressures on this model. So that's a little alarming to me. And we get into Tuesday evening, this comes up and actually misses an actual landfall into western Jamaica. Comes up and hits definitely further west, almost central Cuba, as a Category 3, Category 2 hurricane. Comes up, and just look how it kind of goes right towards like the central Bahamas, southern Bahamas, kind of misses the Turks Caicos Islands well to the north. And I mean, at this point, this is getting pretty close to Florida. It's still very far away, far enough away to not bring any significant impacts, but it's an interesting scenario. And in general, the Euro and Euro AI model have certainly ticked further west. So we're going to go over hurricane models, but I want you guys to note that the hurricane models are just initializing. They're being modeled too strong this morning. For example, the storm is what? Let's go back here. The storm is a 1001 millibar low per the 2 a.m. update. Might be a little stronger, weaker by a couple millibars as of right now, but it's around that point. I mean, the HWRF model starting this off this morning is a 995. I don't think it's that strong. It's not. So that's one thing to note. So even though we're going to go over these, just keep that in mind that it's not initializing the storm correctly strength-wise. So in the next 24 hours, has this becoming a Category 1 or 2 hurricane? Jamaica's right here, Haiti right here. And as we are starting to get into Sunday morning, already has a landfall scenario into the southern shorelines of Jamaica as a category, basically a major hurricane, Category 3 or higher, and just brings devastating impacts. Then it gets north of Jamaica and probably will have an opportunity to strengthen again as it gets over some of the warmest waters on earth between Jamaica and Cuba. This area of water, there's probably areas like that's 90 degrees. It's very warm. And this could strengthen again, make a second landfall into Cuba sometime Monday evening. Just a faster scenario. Gets north of eastern Cuba, might have an opportunity to strengthen again. You got the Turks Caicos down here, southern Bahamas, and this goes right through these areas and then gets further out into the Atlantic. Now, same thing with the HMON model, initializing way too strong. I mean, almost 20 millibars too strong. So it gets this going, and we get into Saturday morning. It's this Category 2, maybe Category 3 hurricane. There's Jamaica coming up on the side of your screen there, and it comes up and starts to slow down again, potentially. And we get into Sunday midday. It makes landfall into eastern Jamaica around Sunday midday, early afternoon as a major hurricane. And then just really is just slow crawling through Jamaica, whether it's the western, the central, the eastern side of the island. And then it gets north, makes that second landfall that almost looks inevitable into Cuba. And then it gets north and goes through all these little kind of lines. I know they're tough to see. I understand that, but it could potentially make some sort of second landfall into areas of the Bahamas, the Turks Caicos Islands. Whether the actual center of circulation goes directly over one of these islands, not sure. Regardless, life-threatening impacts are possible. The HFA model, same thing. Initializing too strong, but we'll still show it. We go into Saturday morning. I like the progression of this a little bit more. Doesn't have any crazy strengthening between now and Saturday morning. 982 Cat 1 hurricane. Then it gets into Sunday morning. And one thing just to note is that the hurricane models are not dipping this well south of Jamaica like the Euro and Euro AI model is. In fact, the hurricane models like this going right into, it likes Sunday as a landfall into Jamaica. It really does. And, the HFA model is a little bit further south as a 927 millibar low Sunday afternoon. I mean, that's like a Category 4 hurricane at least. And it is just grinding down the southern coastline of Jamaica, bringing just awful impacts, awful stuff. Monday morning, it goes right over the island, gets north, and then makes its second landfall into Cuba more so Tuesday, which is just a lot slower than the last two hurricane models I just showed you. And then here it comes, making that third landfall into areas of the Bahamas. And HFB model, initializing too strong. And I like the progression strength-wise more than maybe the HMON HWRF model of the HF A and B models, and just how it doesn't. I just don't see this rapidly intensifying between now and like the next 24 hours. I mean, I really don't. But come on, get in motion for me. But it likes that same scenario though. Sunday morning, it likes a scenario where it tries to make a landfall just sometime Sunday in Jamaica. So the hurricane models like Sunday for Jamaica, and then of course it will continue to bring impacts well into early next week. And then we get between Jamaica and Cuba. Makes that second landfall. I mean, it just the eastern half of Cuba, just all models like that area for that second landfall, or it could be the first landfall, depending on if it makes an actual landfall into Jamaica. Then it rumbles through areas of the Turks, Caicos, and the Bahamas, and then it gets north. So what about the Grand Ensemble? This combines all model data, literally all model data, except like the UK Met, which is not a great model with the tropics. It has ticked a little bit further west. So the black line, that is the mean, the average of all these members. All these little squiggly lines, that's every single member of the ensembles. There's been a clear tick west. It's not too small of a tick where you can barely notice. You can notice it here. And in fact, I'm going to compare it with yesterday's Grand Ensemble. It's going to come up a little bit smaller, but if you look at Jamaica, kind of keep your eye here, and then you look at the current one, you can see how the mean is now over Western Jamaica, maybe rather than Central Jamaica here. And if you look at Cuba, same thing. This is yesterday's run. This is the overnight run, the current run. There's been a little bit of a tick west. And I think the more obvious one you can tell here is if you look at Bermuda on down the road, this is the current run. This is the run from last night. Look how that line is much further east. Current run is much further west. And even if we look up the road here, we'll discuss more of Atlantic Canada, the Northeast, etc. as we go further down into this video. But latest on impacts, guys. This has not changed much since last night's video. If you tuned in, this is predicted rainfall between now and the 26th of October. You know, Jamaica, you guys are going to see feet of rain, especially for the eastern side of Jamaica. I mean, well over a foot of rain is possible. Same thing with Haiti. Haiti, you're probably not going to get a landfall with this system, but you're going to be on what we call just the dirty side of this tropical system. There's just going to be more moisture on the east side. So even if the system kind of goes up like this, Haiti, you're going to continue to get anywhere from 200 to 400 millimeters of rain. I mean, that's 8 to 16 inches of rain. And I know it doesn't show a lot of Cuba into this, but this only goes out to a certain time. I know it doesn't show the Bahamas, Turks, Caicos. This will change as we get closer in time to this forecast range that's keeping it at. But the latest as far as the time frame and the possibility of seeing 40 mile per hour wind gusts or higher, and this is sustained, I will add. 5-day chance of receiving sustained 39 plus mile per hour winds. So sustained, not gust. And this is the time frame. I'm not going to fully break this down for you just because it's here on the map. Pause it if you want, but basically as we're getting into this weekend, all the greater Antilles will begin to see tropical storm force winds. And, you know, there is pretty much a lock for this across Jamaica. I mean, I can break it down percentage-wise, but it's a lock that you're going to see tropical storm force winds across Jamaica. And it's pretty much a lock you're going to see hurricane force winds also, which is pretty much 75 mile per hour winds or higher. Now, one thing I'll show you, and just remember, this is just one individual model run. Do not view this as a forecast. It will really freak you out, but it's a real possibility for this. And this is in knots, but I'll try to convert this to miles per hour for people who go off miles per hour. So this is the latest Euro. Obviously takes this more of a westernly track, and it goes right over Jamaica, and then eastern Cuba, and then into areas of the Bahamas and Turks, Caicos. So this kind of muted, weird-looking color here that almost looks like kind of a darker version of silver, this is getting over 130 to 145 knot wind gust. Okay, so you convert that to miles per hour. I mean, that's getting over 160, 165 mile per hour wind gusts, guys. So that moves right into the southern coastline of Jamaica, whether that's the eastern, I mean, the western, we're not quite sure. And then same thing with Cuba. I mean, 100, 115 knot winds, that's 115 to 130 mile per hour wind gusts. And the same thing rumbles right through areas of the Bahamas. I mean, literally we could get 3 landfalls in just in a few day time period. It's a very concerning look here. Now you might ask, and that's all we know as far as impacts. We'll know a lot more as we get day by day closer and closer. Now you might ask, well, why is this system moving so daggum slow? Well, that is because if you look right here, our system is right here. This is where Melissa is located, this blob of a yellowish orange, okay? We got a high pressure right here. We got a high pressure right here, and we got a trough up here. Now, if you look at the wind barbs, you see this flag portion of the wind barb pointing this way. That means the flow is coming out of that way. So the flow around this kind of large scale trough up here is going just like this, right? That's how the flow is going. The flow around this high pressure is going like this. Flow around this high pressure going like that. This system has moved a little bit more away from this high pressure. So our low pressure, which is Melissa itself, is sandwiched in between 3 different steering currents, but it's far enough away from them that it's a bit into like a void. Just a void of lack of steering currents. There isn't much of anything, so it's just crawling. And honestly, even if it is feeling these 2 high pressure steering currents to the west and the east, the flow is sort of contradicting one another. So this flow is kind of moving up. This flow is coming from the north to the south. This flow is going from the south to the north. So it's just kind of in a way, it's anchoring the system a bit in place here. So it's kind of going like this. So the storm itself is just kind of locked into this one place. So as we move forward here, things will change a little bit, but not much, because the system is still kind of locked in between these 2 steering currents. But one thing I want you to notice is how this ridge up here sort of gets nudged further out into the southwest Atlantic. So now it's kind of like doing like this. So this will actually help to almost yank Melissa a little bit deeper into the central Caribbean. Melissa begins to feel that and get pulled this way off the steering from this little nudge and this high pressure. So that's why you're seeing, for example, on the Euro ensemble, which is what I'm showing you, a little bit of a trend, because maybe this high pressure kind of over areas of the Gulf, Central America, Mexico, is a little bit stronger than being modeled. Well, it's being modeled a little bit stronger, which means we're trending to a little bit of a stronger ridge. So that's why the system actually tries to dip further into the Caribbean, and then that ridge sort of stops becoming a factor, and what looks like is a trough really digs down more. Our system right here, Melissa, feels that trough, feels the weakness. That trough creates more of a weakness. The ridge influence is way over here now, and this system's able to escape, pick up some forward speed, and then if I get this in motion here, it begins its progression further north and northeast and gets kicked out into the southwest Atlantic and eventually into the North Atlantic in time. So there's really just 3 different steering currents really just anchoring this thing in place right now. It's honestly just kind of being steered by trade winds, honestly, kind of right now. Winds in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And the taller this storm gets, the more it feels these upper winds aloft. Aloft meaning in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So we know that a taller system, a stronger system, is going to want to gain latitude. So you got that working towards it too, for another reason on why it will eventually get kicked north. Now, when we're talking about the strength of this storm system, the easiest thing to explain with this is that the sea surface temperatures in the Caribbean are very warm. The system will be kind of going through this entire region right here. And I'll draw on this a little bit. This entire region right here, somewhere into this area, that is some of the warmest waters on planet Earth. 30, 31, 32 degrees Celsius. You convert that to Fahrenheit, it's like 86, 87 degrees. Some areas kind of tucked in between Jamaica and Cuba are probably, 90 degrees. And the thing is it's not just at the surface. Below the surface, the waters are pretty warm too. So even though this system's going to be moving so slow, kind of mixing up the waters, you're thinking, okay, this will cool down the waters and kind of push and kind of almost in a way just kick away that ingredient for a strengthening of this tropical system. But the waters underneath the surface of the ocean are pretty warm also. So there's depth to that warm water. Okay, that's the easiest thing to explain. One that's a little bit tough to explain is the upper winds. Okay, so right now, this is the latest, and I want to make sure we're going, this is the operational Euro. These are winds at about 200 millibars, so 40,000 feet up in the air, which is well above the actual low to mid-level cyclonic circulation of Melissa. Okay, so right now, the system is getting hit by westerly shear. And if you look right here, all right, there's a lot of air being dispersed out away from the system on the north and really the entire eastern side of the system. On the western side of the system, if you look at these little lines with little arrows embedded into it, that is where the direction of the winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere is coming from. So if you look right here, winds are kind of working right up against this system right here and kind of jolting off like that. So this is blasting that western side of the system right now with upper wind flow, which is wind shear. Okay, and you can see that pretty well and how it's being modeled off the Euro. Because it's getting hit by that shear out in the west, there's a lot of dry air right up against the western side of the system, and all the moist air is pushed off to the eastern side of the system, which makes sense because, like I just explained, there's a lot of air, divergence aloft, being dispersed out away from the system. This creates an environment for rising air on this entire east side of the storm system. And if you look at the satellite as far as the water vapor loop, all that connects beautifully on what I just explained. All this brownish color right here, that is dry air on the western side of the system. The actual center of this low-level circulation is probably right in here, folks. Okay? All this area right here, that is just a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity because the environment on the eastern side of the storm supports rising air because of the divergence aloft. And you can see kind of just all the moisture kind of just doing just like this, and that's because the environment supports shower and thunderstorm activity. On this side, it does not. The actual center of the storm's probably like right into here. So symmetric, the system has no structure. It's not symmetrical, and it makes sense why, because it's getting blasted by that westerly wind shear. So I know I spent a lot of time on that just now, but I just wanted to kind of explain what's going on with the system right now and compare it to what changes over the next couple of days. So as we move into say Saturday and then Sunday, the environment changes, and especially as a ridge potentially builds on top of the system, this kind of allows better flow aloft of the system. So at this point now, as we're getting, let's move a little bit further in time. Let's go all the way out into Monday. Now at this point, I think this system is still dealing with a little bit of wind shear hitting the western side of the storm, but at this point, the flow that we just talked about isn't really working fully up against the storm. It's more so kind of working up here, and then it kind of goes like that, then it goes like that. That's a terrible arrow. And then it goes like that, and then it kind of is going like that, or it's a little everywhere down here. So at this point, this system is not getting, I would say, blasted by any kind of significant wind shear. And because this system dips so deep into the Caribbean, it kind of creates its own environment and just enters an environment with really low wind shear. So even though there is some flow kind of working up against the system, it's not significant. And the key thing is here is between now and the next, and basically this weekend, it's going to develop an inner core. And as it develops that inner core, it develops a pocket of extreme moist air around the center of circulation, and that protects the system from any kind of negative wind shear effects. And because we have so much divergence aloft of this system now, quite literally what we call a ULAC, potentially an upper level anticyclone, which means the system is spinning cyclonically, right? Just like this. Okay? But in the upper levels of the atmosphere, it's moving anticyclonically. And you might think, well, that messes up with the cyclonic flow of the system. It does not. Any air being dispersed out away from the top of the system allows for more air to rise. It doesn't matter if it's just directly out or anticyclonically. As air is being dispersed out away from the system aloft on top of it, more air can rise. And as that air rises, that gets pushed away. And it's just a continuous cycle of rising air. And the system quite literally is able to kind of create its own environment because it can develop that inner core. So it's just, at this point, it's so strong, such a tall storm, that it just kind of creates its own environment. So the environment significantly improves as far as the upper wind pattern, and it supports an environment for divergence aloft. So therefore, it's able to create a very moist environment, which you see right here. Watch how all this brown area, the dry air, stops significantly affecting this storm. And even though we get to right here, and there is a ton more moist air on this side of the storm, the east side of the storm, and there is dry air pretty close to the western side of the storm. The system has now cocooned itself with a very tight area of moisture, so it's not being significantly impacted by wind shear. Now, I do think the western side of the system will not look as impressive as the eastern side of the storm system for the life of it. But as this moves in time, I mean, you can see a lot of dry air wrapping into the outer cyclonic flow of the system, but this thing is cocooned so well and so much moist air because it creates that inner core that it's not being bothered by it. So the structure of this system will change significantly. You can actually already see a big blow up of convection. And I think the environment will just gradually improve over the coming days anyway. So if we're looking up the road, if we're looking at any kind of impacts to the East Coast, the Euro misses the East Coast. Okay? It's close, but it misses. The Euro AI model, much closer. This is Bermuda. Okay, and I will note the Euro makes pretty much an exact landfall into Bermuda on November 1st, the morning of November 1st. So we got to continue to watch that. Euro AI model is actually further west and brings a significant storm system. Euro misses, but the Euro AI model comes up and brings a significant storm system into Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as we get into October 31st into November 1st. I mean, this would bring significant impacts. And this is actually close enough. This is Melissa, where it's bringing impacts into Maine, etc. So we got to continue to watch this. We can't ignore the possibility. I mean, we still got members kind of going right into Maine, northern New England, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland. Okay, you can see these members. Most of them are not, but some of them are. And then if you look at the Euro ensemble, look how you got a couple members getting into the northern Bahamas. But we still got members going into Atlantic Canada and these places. So we got to continue to watch all this. Guys, just remember, I will not have a video this evening heading to the mountains this morning. But I'll have another video tomorrow evening. But I will make a community post just to remind everybody. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a wonderful day. And we'll talk soon.